So while the embattled Cyril Ramaphosa is deciding what to do with the leadership of the ANC, many people are calling him to step down. But don't forget, he failed to save South Africa's largest city. I don't care what city you are watching this from, you want to pay attention to this, because when Johannesburg sneezes, all of South Africa catches a flu. So watch this drama on our path to South African prosperity. You ready? Press like. Let's go. So Sanko is not mincing their words. This is what they think.
When you are a leader and then there is an allegation that says you have faltered somewhere, you should not be so arrogant and say, I will only be guilty when I'm found guilty by a court of law. No, for the mere professionalism as well as a heartfulness, South Africans are injured, are victims of corruption and corrupt practices and conduct of the leadership. So whenever someone mentions your name to say you have faltered by any way, you must be free to say, I am prepared to step aside up until my name is cleared. And instead, the public protector decided to align herself with the big man, of which it's something that we must not tolerate. There is no way that a decision has been taken by Parliament that there be an investigation led by a retired judge, only to find that the ANC makes use of its majority to pull this country into the mud that it is in now. And there is no way that as a civil society organizations, we will wait for political decisions in order for this to be corrected. They cannot mess up and think that we'll have to listen to them. They want to see South Africa behaving like other African countries where arrogance is fought with arrogance. We don't need that. We are proud of our constitution. We cannot allow even the role players like President Cyril Ramaphosa, who played a pivotal role for us to have this constitution. But all of a sudden, he is the one who is actually now seeing a big egg on his face that we cannot tolerate. You must do the honorable thing and resign.
Wow, so Sanko is calling on him to resign. But Professor Siepe, in 2 minutes, walks us through just how horrible this whole situation is.
You must remember that we started with Arthur Fraser. Had Arthur Fraser not come out, the president would have walked around as Mr. Clean. And this was 2 years after the fact. So what you have is that Mr. Clean was shown not to be so clean after all. And then you also look at the report. What the ANC has always done in the past is to use its majority to run roughshod over any concern, any opposition. So what the Concord has actually done, and one must also look at the judgment on its own, that it is a well-considered judgment. The EFF's prayer and ATM was very simple, to say Parliament had failed to do its job to hold the president to account. The ANC adherents, they think this is a procedural matter, but they are saying that because they have not read the Section 89 report by the independent panel. Because when you read that report, it is very damning. So politically, once you start going through that process, that will be rigorous, cross-examinations, and there'll be a lot of embarrassment. And effectively, you're going to have a head of state having to answer. So for the ANC, this could not have come at the worst time, because it comes at the time when the support is declining. It comes at the time when every by-election, you see the ANC not doing well. And you see other parties encroaching. Even the president himself had actually said, when you look at municipalities that are performing, says it is not our municipalities. Actually, where the DA governs, they tend to do well. And people have said that actually the president is decampaigning the ANC. But what you are saying is that on the facts in terms of how money is spent. And municipalities under the ANC are not able to manage. And of course, the truth is, we're faced with load shedding, load reduction, we're faced with potholes, we're faced with high unemployment and all that, and the ANC is still a ruling party. So with this, and having the president now having to account continuously through the impeachment process, it's going to be very serious. But the one other thing that you also raised is the question of these other institutions that saw no evil and had no evil and had no evil to report. The question that will be asked is, will they be brought to come and explain themselves? How can they ignore the report that comes from luminaries in law? We must first look at the fact that we had a president who chose not to tell us the truth about Phala Phala. You have also a report that the president's submission to the panel was not seen as convincing. Actually, they were short of saying he was not telling the truth or was lying. Then you have the issue of performance of the president politically, and then you have internal battles within the ANC. The question that the ANC must ask itself is that, does it make sense to go with this person to the next election? And you also have the president who has also acknowledged that he said if things point in his direction, he would be willing to step aside. But we've also seen that he also enjoys being a president. And now you also have a scenario where the president, just a week ago, was addressing an empty stadium, or almost empty stadium. What that should be, it should be a message to the ANC to say, we have not only done so bad in the national elections where we went down by 17%. Now, even when we have a jamboree, like where we're supposed to be happy, where people come, some come for food, this time they said, no, we're not even coming. You need to read the report. The report says, among other things, the president had made statements that says, well, I'm involved in a farming business. I sell cattle and all that. And the president of the country should be so busy that he should not have a hustle on the side. And that is also not constitutional. You have a president who did not report. We have placard that says, if you know that there is these matters, you need to report, and he did not report. Then you have people like President Mbeki, who said to the ANC, what are you guys saying? Are you saying we must protect the president even when he says he's innocent, that he should not be subjected to this process? Now you have now the court saying, yes, you should go that route. But what is interesting, which is not being factored, is that those opposing the application, it was the president, it was the speaker, it was the ANC. They acted in a manner that the Constitutional Court says we were not impressed.
Wow. And while all this is happening, let's take you a year back and what Ramaphosa said he was doing about Johannesburg.
Ramaphosa says many of Johannesburg's challenges mirror those faced by other metros.
We are committed to ensuring that through cooperation amongst the three spheres of government, we will urgently attend to the challenges. We may well have said so in the past, but the enormity of the challenges and the problem compels us to now say we are going to redouble our efforts.
So now, a year later, the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, writes a letter to Dada Morero, Mayor of Johannesburg, and the Johannesburg mayoral candidate got the letter and came out to tell us 4 days ago how shocking the situation is.
The Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, has blown the lid off the financial meltdown in the city of Johannesburg. In a letter to Mayor Dada Morero, dated the 23rd of April 2026, the Minister bluntly states that the city is effectively bankrupt. It owes its creditors 25.2 billion rand, while only having cash and cash equivalents in hand of 3.9 billion. This means the city does not have the money to pay 21.3 billion rand currently owed to its creditors. This is the core reason behind the city's inability to repair or maintain infrastructure, leading to consistent power and water outages and the failure to fix breakdowns resulting in the steady collapse of service provision across the board. The minister's letter also bluntly states that the city has violated the laws governing municipal finances and that these illegal actions have the potential to destroy the sustainability of the city of Johannesburg beyond this term of office, as well as the negative impact on the national economy at large. Now, that is a direct quote from the minister's letter, and it underscores the crucial role Johannesburg plays in the national economy. And so the minister is saying not only has this got implications for future terms of office in the city of Joburg, but crucially, it also will impact on the national economy countrywide. So that's how serious it is.
But I thought President Ramaphosa has set up two structures to rescue Johannesburg. Why is nothing working?
Well, there's definitely looting happening in the city. You would know previously we raised concerns about the bomb squad. We wanted to know the impact. Firstly, we believe the bomb squad itself is unconstitutional. These people, there was no adverts to say what expertise they are bringing to the city. And they have no right to instruct officials. And we've seen people like Helen Zille, for example, sitting in on those type of meetings, which we have raised with the city and with the executive mayor. So they've had no impact. We see people without electricity and water for days. And despite the presidential working group being there, we have people on the presidential working group that are even sharing information with us anonymously to try and intervene as councillors, because they are making recommendations. We've got private conversations where some of the members of the presidential working group has asked us to please see how we can arrest the situation. We've seen a letter as well where they advise the mayor and the city manager and the MMC of Finance that this is not sustainable. But yet this has it's continued. And I think this is one of the reasons why the minister's letter is so scathing, because despite all of these interventions, we see no major change that they have made.
Apparently there's looting, and the two structures that Ramaphosa set up to save and rescue Johannesburg are just frustrated because the looting continues. A looter continua. But then maybe the mayor of Johannesburg, Dada Morero, can explain.
In 2023, when we took over, in 2024, when we took over as the government of local unity, one of the priorities that was spoken to was financial sustainability of the city. Those that left in 2016 left with a cash balance of about 5.2 billion. Now, we acknowledge that at that point, when we took over in 2024, I was clear that the finances of the city are in trouble. And my task was to ensure that at least we find ways of stabilizing the finances of the city. It has been difficult, it has been stubborn, but we've been able to be resilient throughout the period to an extent that, yes, we are able to honor all our financial obligations. We have also honored some of our bonds, and the last bonds has also been honored and been paid off. It's an indication that, yes, despite the challenges that we have, we remain resilient. We are also being able to deliver on projects. Yes, probably there are issues between Joburg and the contractor, issues that I think can be resolved between the two.
Sorry, I'm done with the ANC. Much has been done, but more needs to be done. If I hear the ANC one more time call a catastrophe, a mess, an embarrassing mess, a challenge, an issue. No, an issue is when you slightly don't balance. This is not an issue, it is a catastrophe. Oh, and he says the problem with the finances is because of the DA in 2016, and that's why the city is practically bankrupt in 2024. You can't make this stuff up. But then let's hear from Helen Zille, because her party was in charge of Joburg in 2016. Maybe it's true. Maybe that's where all the problems come from. Who knows?
Well, my decision to run for the mayoral candidate of Johannesburg is because Joburg is in such a terrible state and such terrible condition. It is breaking everywhere. I have just been to a place where literally raw sewage is running down the road and children are playing in it. Plumbing has not been done because the contractors haven't been paid. And there's another water tower that's come to a standstill here because contractors haven't been paid. The truth is that the city has got no money, and when the city is completely bankrupt, no one will get any salaries. We've got to realize what a crisis this is. The National Treasury is saying that they want to put the city under administration, and the National Treasury has a special task team on Johannesburg because things are so bad here. There's been looting, theft, corruption for years, and they finally reached the bottom of the cookie jar. There is no more. And we are on the brink of bankruptcy. And that makes me feel very, very bad. Joburg is still South Africa's economic capital. We have to fix it, and we have to make sure it can be South Africa's pride, because that is the kind of city we want.
Sure, but guys, I must be fair. I don't know, because one of them is lying. Either Helen Zille's lying or Dada Morero's lying, and quite frankly, I'm so confused because I don't know who to believe. Who is collapsing my city? Is it the DA in 2016 that's left all the problems for the ANC in 2023? I really don't know. I don't know, but clearly one of them is lying. If I can't trust Helen Zille, I can't trust Dada Morero. I wish I could find someone who is higher than Helen Zille, someone who's higher than Dada Morero to tell me, like, who's lying, guys? Who is collapsing my city?
Those municipalities that do best are not ANC-controlled municipalities. And I can name it here because there's nothing wrong with competition. They are often DA-controlled municipalities. We need to ask ourselves, what is it that they are doing that is better than what we are doing? And there's nothing wrong with us saying we want to go and see what Cape Town is doing. We want to go and see what Stellenbosch is doing. How do they craft everything? We need to be moving up the ladder of being good at what we do. We cannot forever stay at the bottom. It hurts me deeply when I continue to see that our municipalities sometimes tend to move even backwards.
Sure, Daddy Rama, thank you for rescuing me. My biblical reaction. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when a wicked man rules, the people groan. Why does the ANC keep power so long and many people don't try alternatives? Why is it that when most South Africans leave the ANC, they go to the EFF and the MK, who all came out of the ANC, and the MK exists to fix the ANC? Why is it that people are not taking their right to try different parties? Well, it's not because they're silly. It's not because they're dumb. It's not because they don't see. But there's something deeper psychologically that's going on. And it's a groaning. The people groan. It's hard on many people to accept what the ANC has done to them. The ANC has played a good trick by positioning themselves as a black party. And so many people feel that if the ANC fails, they take it personally that, oh man, black people have failed. Some of the gogos we buried last year, the year before that, the ones who have stopped voting, some of them, the last thought they had on their deathbed was maybe us as black people are just cursed because we have failed. And this is the shame, this is the embarrassment that the ANC has been to black people because they position themselves as representatives of black people. That's why the media gets on the DA that when they say we govern better, they start saying, yeah, white people, because what they hear is an embarrassing message that says white people govern better than black people. And although the DA tries to say we're not a white party just because we have white people, but the reason why it goes that way is because the ANC, like the rest of the liberation parties all over Africa, have left black people feeling ashamed of themselves because the parties managed to say, we represent you, and not we represent you in parliament, but we represent you in the world. We represent your identity. If you don't believe me, find a Zimbabwean who is here working for below minimum wage. Try talk Zimbabwe politics with them. You'll realize they won't entertain you because you are raising a very personal, deep wound that says the person who said they represent me as a black person has gone out into the world and said I am inferior. And that is so embarrassing. It is the deepest groan ever. And what the ANC has done to black South Africans, first of all, by lying and saying that they represent them as black people, when they just saw that it's the easiest scam to use race to get someone to hand you their identity. But then when you fail, they will protect you to the heels and back, because no one's protecting the ANC. They're protecting themselves. Because to agree that the DA governs better, in their mind feels like to finally admit that white people are better, even though that's not the point. But how do you get someone who feels a deep sense of shame, of worldwide on TV embarrassment every single day? How do you get them to just say, oh, you're not good to represent me in parliament? The thing is, they never represented them in parliament. They managed to usurp people's identities and then say, we represent you, not in parliament, in life, in sense of self. That's why many people, when they deal with this corruption, that's why the EFF exists, because someone gets to say, okay, at least I'm not ANC, I'm EFF. Yeah, but you know, Julius is part of the failure because he's ANC. No, but Zuma is going to save the ANC. But you know, Zuma is ANC president for 9 years, and since 2008 is actually when the country started doing worse. But it's not because people are silly, but it's because they're human. And if you take a human and steal their identity and say, I represent your identity, then when you fail, they feel like the failures. And listen, this is what I want to say to anyone who thinks, that kind of makes sense. The ANC doesn't represent you. Your family represents you. Your mom and dad brought you to this earth. Mandela didn't bring you to earth. And if you're a believer like me, God created you. Nobody's failure is a reflection on you. Nobody's success is a reflection on you. Please take your identity back. Place your identity in God. Place your identity in your family. And then be in the world as a blessing to see how you can use your gifts, talents to bless others, not to get identity from them, because when they fail, then you feel like a failure, then you can't make the right decisions. And then we end up living in a city I grew up in, which has always been decent, and now it's been turned into a ghetto. And a big reason why it's gone on this long, it's not because people are foolish. Everybody gets scammed. I've been scammed before. I was scammed by the ANC. But because I happened to just have the blessing at the right place at the right time to learn enough about my identity in Christ, about my identity in my family, I was able to realize that there's no such a thing as a black party that gave birth to me. There's no such a thing as a black party that created me. So I'm not looking for anyone to represent me in the world. And so political parties only represent me in parliament, and not to tell anyone whether I'm a success and a failure. So the ANC has failed. You have not. And I pray that you get to separate yourself from these shysters. Anyone that uses your skin color, that's a scam. When he fails, you feel like a failure and you start making silly decisions. This is not because you're not smart, but it's because you're human. That's why the scam works. It has worked through centuries. You wouldn't be the first to be scammed by this identity politics. You won't be the first. You're not the 1,000th. You're not the 1,000,000th person. Maybe you're the 50 millionth person to be scammed by this. It's just something that happens, and politicians learn to play it. You hand over not just your vote, but you hand over your identity. Don't give your identity to no one. Just give them your vote. This is a professional relationship. You just hire someone to do some work, and you hire them for 5 years with full permission to fire them next 5 years. These are not football clubs. These are not your family. Ramaphosa is not your family. Ramaphosa is not going to give you 5 rands from 5 billion. He's not your dad. He's not your uncle. He's just a shyster hiding money under couches and becoming a billionaire alone. After people have died so long, and they said it's for freedom of black people. Yes, it was for freedom to avoid the best whiskey, while our cousins, our mothers, our uncles are sitting somewhere unemployed, living on 350 bribe. Of course, what else do you expect from someone who is a stranger? This is how it works with strangers. We watch what they do, how well they do it. We hire them for the job with a full expectation that unless they really impress us, we fire them. So don't give them identity when you should only be giving a vote, and only for 5 years. Don't give them your life. That's not the deal. That's not the deal. Just a vote, and just for 5 years. And then at the end of the 5 years, you make a new decision and give a vote again. So that's why I keep repeating. No man can serve 2 masters, because either you love the one or hate the other, or hate the other and despise the other. You can't serve God and Karl Marx. Karl Marx says your identity belongs to politicians. God says your identity comes from God and your family. You can't have both. So let's make history together. Let me hear your thoughts below. Cheers.